What is going on, y'all? Welcome into episode 6 of Real Friends. I am your host, T-Bob Aber, and as always, I am joined on my right by Nathan Velasquez.
Hello.
And Rivers Huey to my left.
Hi.
Behind the glass, working his magic, we got Mr. Joseph Rodriguez, and we are excited because today is our final Star Wars episode. Full disclosure, we are recording this on a Tuesday. Got a little delayed because my baby shower, but we are actually going to be witnessing Star Wars Episode 8 in just 2 days. This is our final opportunity. We've seen all the rest of the movies. Now we're going to break them down. This week we have Revenge of the Sith, Return of the Jedi, and Force Awakens. But before we get into it, what have we been watching lately? Nathan, we will start with you, as I think you're the only one that's been in the movies.
I saw The Disaster Artist a few days ago, which is really funny, but also really creepy. I guess if you know anything about Tommy Wiseau, the person that made The Room, he's a creepy guy, and James Franco does a really good job of getting a little under the skin of that persona that we really don't know anything about. It's kind of creepy, but it's also really funny.
I got to see The Room. I've never seen The Room. That's and then I can watch The Disaster Artist.
The Room, that's the one.
It's just a notoriously bad
Lisa,
movie.
you're tearing me apart.
No, I haven't seen that.
I've seen that part.
Oh, hi, Mark.
Hey, that's a good impression.
Thank you. And I also saw Lady Bird, which is a really fun
I want to
coming
see
of
that.
it's really sweet, and it's really funny and sad. It's sad.
Mm-hmm.
I've not been to the movies lately. I did watch some Netflix, though. Got deep into that Mindhunter, which put me into a serial killer hole for the last 2 weeks. I've been watching real-life interviews with serial killers on YouTube, and it's a really good show.
It's a fun hole to go down.
That
It's
is
a depressing
weird,
hole to go
weird
down.
hole.
Feel very greasy when you come out the other side. Kind of looking at everybody sideways, like who's the murderer that's just living next door. But it's kind of fascinating. So everybody should check out Mindhunter. I recommend it.
Yeah, that's weird. I've just been really deep into The Office for a month or two.
It's a hilarious show.
But I'm on season 9 and like halfway through, and I realized that maybe when it was originally on, I didn't watch all the seasons. I thought I had. No. And now I'm in episodes where I'm like, what is happening?
How do
right
you
now?
feel after Michael has left? Do you still enjoy it?
I thought that I wasn't going to like it, which is probably why I stopped watching it originally.
Yeah.
But now I like the new characters.
Mm-hmm.
How far do they go past Michael?
Several
Because I just
seasons.
remember Robert California, Will Ferrell for a couple
I
episodes.
I didn't love
That's
Robert
it.
California.
Oh, I loved Robert
Yeah, there's
California.
like three or 4 seasons after Michael leaves.
Wow.
Yeah.
That said, you're a mad person for committing to sitting down and watching that much Office.
a lot.
20 they're 20-minute episodes.
What are you in, season 9?
Season 9. And there's like 24 episodes.
But that's
per
kind of a
season.
show you can leave on when you're doing housework.
Absolutely.
Things like that.
That's true.
When I'm just
true.
like doing stuff at home, I just have them on. 20-minute episodes. It's fine.
All right, so there you go. Disaster Artist, Lady Bird, Mindhunter, and The Office. Maybe you've heard of it. Now, let's get into it. So for those who missed last episode, if you want to hear what we had to say about the first 4 movies out of 7 that we watched, which was episode 4, A New Hope, 5, Empire Strikes Back. We then jumped to the prequels, did episode 1 and 2. Check out the last episode on Real Friends. Today, we are breaking down, pretty interestingly, 3 movies from 3 different generations of Star Wars. We're going to start with episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, close out our story of Anakin. Then we're going to jump to Return of the Jedi, close out the original trilogy, and then we move into the new era of Star Wars, into the Force Awakens. So let's start, as we do. Nathan, give us the layout for Revenge of the Sith.
This one, it's pretty heavy. Star Wars Revenge of the Sith, directed by George Lucas, as all the prequels were. The summary: Anakin and Obi-Wan are rescuing Palpatine from the Separatist commander, General Grievous. Anakin kills Dooku. Palpatine encourages him to do that. He's very happy about that.
Yeah.
Padme then tells Anakin that she is pregnant. He starts having visions like he had of his mother right before she died, which makes him worried. At the same time, Anakin wants to become a Jedi Master. The Council says no. Instead, they want him to look into Palpatine, but he kind of likes Palpatine, so that kind of... he doesn't like that very much. Then Palpatine starts kind of musing on to Anakin's stories about how the Sith has powers that the light side doesn't want to tell you about. You can save people, which makes him think that maybe he can save Padme. Oh. And then we find out Palpatine is in fact a Sith Lord, and there's a big confrontation with Mace Windu. Anakin is then taken under the wing of Palpatine and starts turning to the dark side.
Rise, Lord Vader. Yeah. Okay, so that's a basic layout of Revenge of the Sith. Now, let's be clear. We're trying something new here on Real Friends. We're still figuring this thing out as we go along. So we're going to try to provide a little bit of structure to the conversation tonight. And we're going to kind of do a pros and cons, right? What I liked, what I didn't like. And so we'll start with the positives. Rivers, what was one element of Revenge of the Sith that you enjoyed?
I think of all the prequels, this was my favorite, which wasn't hard to do.
It's a tough one, isn't it, to choose?
It felt the closest to maybe the tone of the original movies. And I don't know if maybe that was because of they were older in this episode, and so it didn't feel as kiddish. You know, there was more of the fighting, which was one of my favorite parts. So throughout all the prequels, Yoda has not been my favorite, you know, because he's been kind of an asshole. He pulls it together in this one.
Really?
I liked him in this one. He was nicer. He was just kind. And then there was that fight scene where he's like jumping around.
Yes, no, and are you talking about the one where him and the Emperor, it's like the only Force on Force fight scene that I think you get in the entire movie.
Wait, Yoda and Dooku in the second one? Or?
No. That's the
Yoda
lightsaber. I'm talking about Yoda and the Palpatine when they're.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a straight no lightsabers Force
Yoda's
battle.
jumping around all the place in the Senate and
those floating scenes. It's a cool setup. To have a big special effects driven fight.
So like Yoda got back on my good side.
Which is interesting because I have some things to say about Yoda. But I've never thought of him as an asshole, but after doing the show, watching these movies, you kind of opened my eyes to that, and you're exactly right. And in fact, the entire story of the prequels, in a way, is Yoda kind of being humbled. It's like everything is going on underneath his nose. But more on that in a minute. Okay, so you really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I enjoyed this one.
For me personally, look, I too really love the pacing of Revenge of the Sith. I don't think that there's a lot of fluff. It feels kind of like a roller coaster all the way throughout, like that summer blockbuster feel that maybe episode 2 especially, I think, went for and just didn't hit. And it's like right off the bat for me. I'll never forget being in the theater and watching that opening sequence with Obi-Wan and Anakin, where I think it really reinforces how far the Jedi and our understanding of them have come since episode 1, where you had Qui-Gon and you had Obi-Wan in episode 1. It's a very kind of chilled out assault on this Trade Federation ship. You know, not a lot of big set pieces. I mean, this thing starts with an insane assault by Obi-Wan and Anakin. They're flying against impossible odds. Then they land on an enemy megaship, basically where like their president is being held hostage, which is a good setup to begin with.
Yeah.
That the president's been captured by the bad guys. So they land on this ship. They fight their way through it. They meet up with the big bad from last movie. They kill Count Dooku, and then it's not even over yet. You got to battle Grievous. The ship starts to crash. They have to land it. It's like this. Well, how long is it? Like 30 minutes of the movie?
Oh, no, it's 30 minutes. Apparently, this movie was supposed to be like 3 hours. George Lucas wanted the first hour to be capturing, saving Palpatine,
that would have been
which
too
I
much.
thought could have been. I don't know. I thought maybe could have been. I would like to see it.
I'm obviously a sucker for spectacle. I think I've realized that watching these movies, and the spectacle of this opening scene, I thought was just really well done. They end up crash ship, whatever, and they end up making. Now, a couple things that stand out to me from that. The scope of it all is pretty breathtaking. When you round a ship and you see all the lasers flying and all the people fighting, I think the special effects hold up. But I think the most important thing to me is that Obi-Wan and Anakin feel really strong, right? Mm-hmm. You could tell that they've been fighting in this war for a while. Their relationship seems strengthened. They're kind of closer than ever. And Anakin especially feels stronger. I mean, look at how easily he disposed of Dooku, a guy who not only beat him last time, like, gone are the days of episode 2. I don't like the sand, Anakin. This was a much more imposing Anakin established at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, I think particularly I have here the actors I think are much better. I think Hayden Christensen is a lot better, and I think that whenever you just the first scene, which it does. It brings the two of them together, and I think they have real chemistry that I don't think they had in the second movie. It's really fun watching Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor interacting. I think they do a really good job.
I thought you meant Natalie Portman. So I was about to be like,
no.
I don't know about that.
We'll get to the negatives, and I think Padme's in there.
Yes, no, Anakin and Obi-Wan finally
yes. And I think when it opens, you feel there's actually like a comedic energy between the two of them that actually sticks and works. But what I really liked about this one. I think it's the best. I mean, I think most people would say it's the best of the prequels, and it feels the most like a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that it does the hardest thing that any of them had to do, which is pulling off the transition to the dark side for Anakin. And I don't think it does it all that subtly, but I think that it does it really well. I think that it's...
I might disagree with that.
Oh, dear.
Yeah, well, okay, I find that interesting because I guess since it sounds like this just segues perfectly into one of my negatives, I don't know that I like the turn of Anakin.
Me either.
I'll let you start, Rivs. I'll let you start so I can get a bit longer.
Well, no way. The whole thing kind of bothered me because I know as viewers, like, we know who the bad guy is. I know that, and we've talked about it, but it just seems so strange that Anakin is so dumb that he doesn't realize Palpatine is so very obviously the bad guy. Like, he's so obviously the bad guy.
Is this because you see his face like just under the hood?
He just looks like standard bad guy. And so, anyways, aside from that,
he is throwing out creep vibes.
Yeah.
Anakin, have you ever heard of Darth Plagueis?
It just seems like he's like being very obvious about his intentions.
Like someone who's on the internet a little bit too much. It's like I heard something really cool about the Sith.
And so that I feel like it just happened so quickly.
Like the dark web?
I feel like it happened too quickly.
Okay, yes. That's my problem with it.
It was just like he was not bad, and then he was, and it was like whiplash.
Well, he goes 0 to 100, right? Like, I understand the motivation. I see that. I see what they were going for, right? In an effort to save that which he loves most, a man will go, like, to the ends of the earth, right? But to me, they missed the landing. Like, I can buy him being upset with the Jedi Order. He got in late. He's like this teen megastar, basically. He feels like they're holding back. I get that. That's like a young man who's really successful and feels like the older people are trying to hold him down. I get that. I can buy him stopping Mace Windu from killing the Emperor. What I struggle to buy is that he goes straight from that to then killing younglings and friends that he fought beside for like years.
The scene where he killed the little kids, that was unsettling.
Anakin, what are we going to do?
That was unsettling.
And that's what they're going for, right? Like, they want to drive it home like, this dude is evil now. There is a clear line of demarcation between Anakin and Darth Vader, but it just felt fake, right? He's trying to protect his own wife and kids.
And so he's just killing all these other little kids.
At the drop of a hat, he murders all these other kids.
I had a problem with that for sure.
I think now, I do think if I wanted to go, like, if executed properly, that could have been devastating, like massively impactful, because it still makes you feel bad, and it really does reinforce how evil he's become. But I think it could have carried a lot more emotion with it. It felt kind of forced. Mm-hmm. I think they missed the landing a bit there.
I think there are a lot of missteps. I think that Padme is kind of the biggest problem because I still don't really think that these two people like each other all that much.
So I'm a little confused as far as like their relationship goes. So since the last movie they've developed, they're closer. Obviously, she's pregnant. They've been doing some stuff. Okay, so
wait, so this was not an immaculate conception, right?
No. This was not midichlorians just climbing up in there.
Okay. So she's pregnant, but so he doesn't know. I guess he's been away for a little while because she's very obviously pregnant. She has this belly. So did he not know that? Does no one else around her care or notice that she's pregnant? And if they do, does it not matter to them who the father is? How is nobody aware of their relationship?
Yeah, I'm not entirely sure how she's going about explaining the pregnancy to her everyday life. I never even actually considered that.
Because at the very, towards the end, Obi-Wan's it hits him. He's like, oh, it's Anakin. It's like, what? You're just tuning in?
Well, okay. Well, yeah. And maybe then we'll give him the benefit of the doubt that they kept it super secret. But it would seem weird that Obi-Wan, of all people, his brother in arms, wouldn't know. Now,
and she goes to those meetings, like the Senate meetings, like people see her day to day.
Yeah, she's a
no
public
morning
figure.
Sickness to hide.
She's pregnant. She's obviously pregnant. So you would think that she would be important enough to where it would matter to people that she was pregnant and who the father was.
And I don't know. I mean, I guess at that point, and I find myself having to do this a lot with the original trilogy, especially. I think you almost have to go out of your way to justify, like, oh, well, Padme is such like a strong, independent politician that she just tells me, I'm pregnant. That's all you need, or whatever, right? Like, she's just adept at hiding it from everybody. But you're right; they don't necessarily execute that very well. And that's some good questions I never even actually.
Well, one thing I want to say
considered.
about the transition to the dark side is, I think there are a lot of missteps, and I think there's a lot of. That's what I was saying. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that is not subtle. There's a lot of pillars of stuff that doesn't quite fit. But I think, especially with how creaky a lot of the story structure is in the prequels, whenever the helmet goes on Darth Vader and you get that pause and, Darth Vader is born, I don't feel like it fell short. I feel like whenever that happens, it works.
Yeah.
And I think that looking back, there's a lot of stuff that because he killed kids like within the span of a few days. That was fast.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
But I think it sticks the landing, but it's kind of a hard landing.
That's a good point. I should say that when I think of the turn, I think of when he kills the younglings, and that felt, or really when he kills Windu, then straight to the younglings, and that was so extreme. But you're right, it's redeemed by the final fight scene with Obi-Wan, with Anakin. Like you said, since they finally have this chemistry, and this is one of the things that I really liked was the final fight scene, and since you finally have this chemistry at the beginning of the movie, you then, it's tough for these prequels to create emotion. I felt emotion when Obi-Wan's yelling "You are my brother, Anakin. I loved
that was
you."
very sad.
Yes, and he's like, "Yeah, you were the chosen one." And so, and when you come out of that fight, and you basically watched Obi-Wan have to cut up his brother, murder him as far as he knows,
and then just leaves him all volcano-y and
come on,
stuff.
everyone, you couldn't
you
kill
could
him, put him out of his misery, maybe, bro.
Which would have been the smart move,
Yeah.
Also, why does the high ground matter so much? When we've seen characters in these movies win from the high ground multiple times. In fact, Obi-Wan is kind of a specialist at winning from the low ground. Excuse me.
Yeah,
he jumped over Darth Maul in Episode 1. Again, in this movie against Grievous, he's hanging on when he pops up and shoots Grievous in the chest. But whatever. I mean, I guess Lucas was like, I got to end this fight.
Yeah, it just sounded like
we just got to get through this.
Jedi 101 type of thing. Just kind of, remember what training said. I have the high ground. Are they about to do that? Look, there it is. That's so hilarious.
See, okay, now why I like that over the top, and this whole scene is over the top, but why I like that over the top when they're both just missing and whirling, it's almost like watching two warriors that are almost psychic in their ability to fight, right? Like they're predicting and reacting off each other's moves to the point where they're not even connected.
I have a
really like
question
the final fight.
that maybe you guys can answer, and maybe I wasn't paying attention or whatever. So, Palpatine is the Sith Lord.
Yes.
So
yes.
Bad Jedi, whatever. He was a Jedi, and then...
well, I don't know if we know that Palpatine was ever a Jedi.
But he's strong in the ways.
Very
of
strong
the
in the
Sith.
Force,
there was some deal where he was like an assistant to someone, or...
Darth Plagueis the Wise.
And then he killed him.
Yes, we believe that that's Palpatine, right? I mean, do we ever get official 100% confirmation
I think he confirms it.
Most Star Wars forums kind of take that as a given.
Oh, yeah.
I think he confirmed, but whatever.
I'm just wondering if, the actual movie text, he never comes out and says, I was Darth
So
Plagueis.
this isn't he's not a super old
apprentice.
guy. So this happened, not a long time ago. I mean, I am assuming he's aging as, a human.
Yeah.
Okay. So... How would Yoda...
I don't know how that works.
How would Yoda not know? Or how would the other Jedis not know about this thing?
Because that's... Okay, so this is where I'm going to get into...
I thought you were going somewhere else with that.
My favorite part of the movie.
What did you think I was going to ask?
I thought you were going to ask,
I want to know what smart question you thought I was going to ask.
I thought, how... so much time
And how I
passes...
disappointed you.
So much time passes between this movie and Return of the Jedi. He doesn't look like he's got... you'd expect him to be so much
that is
worse
an
by the time you get
excellent...
to
Oh,
Return of the Jedi.
but
Question.
let us remember the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise. If he could prevent death, could he not figure out some way of slowing down aging?
I thought that was a
so.
total just
bullshit
story to tell Anakin.
So
but I
he
guess
would
it might have.
join-
Maybe that is true. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe
Maybe it was, but there's, I still feel there's an element of truth there, and a really good. Who's the actor who plays Palpatine? Not always the most subtle, but I actually really enjoyed during the opera scene where they're at the swimming opera, whatever the hell that thing was. Where when he's telling the Plagueis story, you can see him
You
with this
obviously
little
know.
smile on his face, and he's fondly remembering killing.
Well, that's the same actor
his
that played
former,
the Chancellor in the original trilogy. That's the same guy.
that played. That's the same guy that played the Emperor
Yeah. And,
well, not the very original Emperor, though, right? Because it gets weird where they've
well,
come
the same
back
actor.
and superimposed. Okay. I actually don't fully know. It gets weird with all the re-edits, how they end up doing the Emperor. But
I just don't know why the Jedi, the Force, whatever, all those, they're so intelligent and they're so wise. And
exactly. Because the Emperor is a genius. And this is my favorite part of the movie is the Emperor's plan. This entire prequel trilogy is a tale that's as it's old. It's throughout human history.
A tale as old as time?
I almost said it. How do you turn a republic into an empire? You know what you do? You create chaos, you create war, you create instability, and then centralized power rises out of that. Me personally, I love the fall of the Roman Republic, rise of the Roman Empire period. And it has a lot of similarities to this. In Rome, it was a civil war. And at times of war in Rome, that's when they would promote a dictator. That's where we get the word dictator from. They would put him in control to try to make it easier to combat whatever threat you're matching. So he takes that story, George Lucas does, and he wraps it up in this sci-fi setting that I think is so impressive. The idea of the Chancellor, like, they have to answer this tough question. How do you create a war that spans the galaxy, right? How do you have supply lines, troops? They create two armies that have unlimited numbers. It's droids and clones. Endless supplies of cannon fodder. Throw the galaxy into chaos. And the whole time the Chancellor's politically manipulating his way to the top, playing both sides of one another. No one has any idea.
Which is crazy
No one has
to me.
any idea. But it's because we see behind the scenes.
Still,
right?
he just seems so sketchy.
So, but to me, it speaks to how
even in
powerful.
the real world, it's tough. I mean, you can't just go around. This is like a political climate. They're dealing with things in the way that we would be dealing with them today.
That's true.
We can't just
Be like,
take
you're
out
sketchy,
all the sketchy people.
You're sketchy. You're gone.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
see how much trouble we're having dealing with sketchy people.
Yes.
But think about it, right? Does
Our
that
very own Palpatine.
Yeah.
Think about how powerful the Chancellor. It's kind of scary to think about. But think about how powerful the Chancellor is. When this lone man, this one man, created a war that spanned the entire galaxy and got a galaxy-wide republic to vote him as emperor and to put him into that power. I think that, to me, speaks to how powerful it is. Makes it very impressive. It makes it much more intimidating to me in episodes 5 and 6. So I'm like, oh my God, I watched this dude take over everything. Also, to your point, Rivers, this says a ton about the Jedi. It takes away from Yoda's aura. You mentioned him being an asshole. You're so right. He gets humbled by this. He didn't see it coming. The Jedi are literally taking orders for years from the guy who is leading the army that they're fighting against. So they are getting played like puppets the entire time. And Palpatine is the ultimate puppet master. So I thought his levels of manipulation were fantastic. I think it shows that the Jedi are not infallible. And I think that it's very, very effective.
Still a little bit boring.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I should say that like everything else in the prequels, the execution is not there, but the story, if you stop and think about it, I find very intriguing. I don't think that they always make it the most exciting.
In the Disaster Artist, you could say the same about The Room. The execution isn't there, but there is a story.
It's not that bad.
It's not that bad.
Okay, final point. Order 66. What'd y'all think about it?
Oh, I thought that was such.
Jedi?
That was one of my favorite moments. I can't believe I didn't put that in there. That whenever you kind of realize, I guess that's kind of like the Godfather scene, like at the end of the Godfather, where everyone starts turning and you just get this compilation of everyone being assassinated. I thought that was done well.
I thought it was great, and it makes sense. A really hard question to answer because we watched these Jedis be established as being incredibly powerful and incredibly hard to kill, right? The entire movies. Well, look at what Anakin and Obi-Wan did at the beginning. So how do you kill an entire Jedi Order? You take advantage of the thing that makes them most Jedi, their trust. Anakin says it, right? Sith look inward, Jedi are selfless.
Shouldn't the Jedi be able to sense the wrongness,
I think you're thinking of Spider-Man.
But I mean, can't they since they can sense fear or whatever? Shouldn't they be able to sense some sort of
But the clones didn't really have any true animosity. It's more like a hidden little switch built into their programming that would slip. To your point, though, good instincts because Yoda sensed it.
But even the stormtroopers and stuff, they're not. Those were
They're all clones. So that's where the Emperor's genius comes into play. He created 2 armies out of nothing that nobody feels bad for dying.
They were like, I don't know.
No, they are all Jango Fett clones.
Got it.
So it is endless cannon fodder. So when that switch was flipped, that's like built into their programming.
Got it. So
that
you
wasn't
can't sense that.
Yeah, that wasn't even though Yoda, to your point, Yoda did, and that's how he ends up living. But I just thought it was really cool that they took advantage of the Jedi's trust of others. And that is something that a Sith would never fall victim to. I think you're going to see it come back up, though, in our next movie as well. And think about it, if you're these Jedi, they've been fighting besides these clone troopers for years. They're like been in the foxholes, they're best friends, and then they turn on them like that. Devastating. They would never guess. And I think the scene actually sells that pretty well. Anything else? Don't likes, dislikes before we move on?
No,
I think I'm
everything.
good with I'll come back to the prequels in a few years, but as of now, I'm done with them.
You're done with them.
This just reminded me how much I love Episode 3. I think Episode 3 is a damn good movie. But next up on the list is the other third part of the trilogy as we move out of the prequels and back into the originals. We are now heading to Return of the Jedi. We have learned about who Anakin Skywalker was. We know about the Emperor's rise to power, and now we're seeing that clash generation later come to a head.
Star Wars Return of the... I just realized I got a poster that has a watermark on it. I'm very disappointed in myself there.
No worries, Nathan.
All right,
no worries.
Star Wars Return of the Jedi, 1983. Right now, we see Luke and Leia save Han Solo and C-3PO from Jabba the Hutt.
Yeah.
Leia kills Jabba, all right? After we're done with Jabba's area, everyone then meets up at the Rebel Alliance. Luke goes to see Yoda right before he dies and discovers that Leia is, in fact, his sister, and realizes that what he has to do now...
Problematic.
Weird.
Yeah, weird poster
If you're watching,
here.
there's a strange...
Can we full screen this?
And Han Solo is trying not to notice. He's
we full
just
screen
kind
this,
of...
Joe. We'll get... okay, now if everybody would please look at Luke's hand there wrapped around Leia's waist.
Ooh.
It's an aggressive hold.
It's aggressive.
Then again, in 2017, Rivers, you're fond of saying incest is... we're good to
we're
go.
okay with incest.
Yeah, we're all good. Okay.
Back
But
on
I don't
the
know.
playing
That's still...
field.
But, like, this wasn't then. This was then.
I don't think the guy that drew this poster maybe
Someone
knew,
okayed this poster,
knew
though.
that Leia was Luke's sister. Maybe so. Look,
But
I'm very
you know
close to
what
my
though?
sister.
You know what though? The poster probably because he finds out in this movie that Leia's his sister. The
Yeah.
poster probably came out before, obviously, the movie did. So they don't want to like.
And it is the
You're
scene,
not
I think, where
expecting a
they're
sister
swinging.
scene here.
Yeah, that's true. All right.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. No.
So Luke he realizes what he has to do is he has to destroy Darth Vader. Meanwhile, there is a new Death Star being created, and pretty much everyone then regroups on Endor. Well, they have to go to Endor, destroy the shield that is protecting the Death Star. This is where we meet the Muppets or the Ewoks.
Yeah.
And they all start to destroy the shield. Luke tells Leia then that they are related, and he has to go confront his dad. And at that point, you've got 3 stories going on. Lando Calrissian is leading a battle to destroy the Death Star.
Second Death Star.
Yes. Han, Leia, and the Ewoks are battling on Endor to take down the shields. And then you have Dad, Son, and Emperor just trying at a battle of which that turns into quite a few deaths.
Yeah, those are the best parts of the movie, in my opinion. Now, Return of the Jedi. Off the top, I would say this is actually my least favorite of the original trilogy.
What?
Yeah, I mean,
I think that it is all the
Yours too?
visual
of the
spectacle.
original trilogy, yeah.
I think that it has the big set pieces that I love from Star Wars. I think it lacks a lot of the likability.
I still love this. I feel like I like it more than you do. I still think that this is way. I think it's for me. It's close behind A New Hope. I still
I like this better than A New Hope.
Okay, now do tell.
I liked a lot of things about this. I have more pros than I do cons.
Oh.
First of all, Ewoks, like, give them all to me. Just want to hug
You
them,
love
them, and
You love
be
it.
with them always.
I like a
wanna
good,
move in.
unashamed Ewok love.
I want to just move into that village.
Wasn't it great though?
thing.
Whenever Luke made C-3PO float, and then
yeah.
they were all like,
Okay,
there's like
a little food for thought, though. Before you want to move into the Ewok village, let's recognize these little terrifying cuddly bears were ready to eat fully sentient beings, right? beings that they could watch
But they
communicating
didn't.
and have emotion. They were ready to roast them and eat them. They are brutal.
I have dolphin like every Sunday, and they do that.
I'm fine with that. I can look past that because they're so cute.
Didn't
But
expect that. Touche.
It kind of leads me into another thing that I really liked about the movie. I felt like in this movie there were a lot more alien creatures. There was a ton of them. Especially when you were in Jabba's lair. Like, you got to see a lot of cool...
It was like the cantina taken to a way bigger budget degree.
Right. I would hang out at Jabba's lair for sure. That
Jabba's
like
lair did look like pretty fun. A little greasy, but a lot of fun.
You might not remember a lot of it, but it would be fun.
I think the reason that I most like this movie too, and this is probably just me personally, something I like about most movies, is how satisfying it felt that they wrapped everything up. And some people, that might be something they don't like. Luke gets to say bye to Yoda. He finds out Leia's his sister.
Yeah.
He has that whole moment with
Han Solo in the closet.
Yes.
Oh, no.
I was like, what? No. Yes. With his dad.
Oh, you assumed he was going to say the Emperor and Darth Vader.
Yeah. Darth had me in my feelings. Whenever he was like, let me look on you with my own eyes. I mean, come on.
No, it's really good.
So I like a movie that's going to like tie things up for me, which I guess doesn't make as much sense now because there's 3 more. But
no, but I'm actually in complete agreement with you on that point. It's actually why Empire always gets knocked down a bit in my book. While it's really good, it is a very formless movie in and of itself, which I guess you can maybe say Jedi is, but the fact that it has an ending gives it a little crispness, and that's why I like A New Hope so much. But we talked a bit about that last episode. So you really loved Jedi.
Yeah, I really liked this. I mean, I think I still liked what's this? Return of the Jedi. Wait, what's episode
the names give it confusing.
So episode 2, I liked.
Empire Strikes Back.
Not episode 2.
You're thinking Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, I like that. 5. I still like that one better of these 3, but I like this one better than A New Hope.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nathan?
Yeah, I really think that this, whenever I was younger, I used to like this movie so much more, and I think it's because what I still like about it is I think that the texture to the different environments that they're in, I feel like there is more texture to them, especially the Jabba's area in the beginning. I think that is handled almost perfectly. I love the story that takes place in Jabba's palace. I think is great. I think the stuff in the middle really needs to be tightened up in terms of editing, but I love the world of Endor, and I love the way that Endor and what's going on at the Death Star ties in. I think that this one feels like it just wanted to have fun, and I think it does a really good job of just having fun. Especially because the one before was really serious, and they did a great job with that. I think it was just a big, awesome piece of fun.
It was like a little too fun at times, though, because that's maybe where some of my problems come
I
in.
love the fun.
And my first problem, and maybe my biggest problem, I don't know if it's actually my biggest problem, but what in the hell, man? Who wrote the script or decided how Boba Fett was going to die? Like after you've built Boba Fett, after you've built Boba Fett up, he was the coolest looking bounty hunter in the second one, the most effective. He looks badass and effective in the beginning of this movie. He's supposed to be one of the most feared bounty hunters in the entire galaxy. He doesn't even end up with like an impressive fight move to his name. All that happens is blind Han hits him in the jetpack and he ends up in the Sarlacc pit. It is absurd.
Well, some of the greatest people in history go down
so
like
ridiculous.
Okay, and I can appreciate that if they had actually established him doing something great first.
Yeah.
Like make him look really badass and then show that like even, fortune, lady luck, bad luck can come for anyone. But no, he just comes off feeling like entirely ineffective.
That's so funny.
And I loved Boba Fett, dude.
Yeah.
The jetpack, the wrist-mounted rockets are so cool.
Was a little confused. I forgot. I mean, I knew who he was, but then when they were in the lair, and Leia brings in Chewbacca when you don't realize it's her.
Yes.
And she looks at him. Yeah.
Sorry, that was
weird. I don't know.
Yeah.
She's
my bad.
Okay. She spoke English in her costume. I don't know what that was. But she looks at Boba Fett and they nod at each other. So then I was trying to remember. I was like, wait, is that Luke? It was confusing.
No. I think she assumed the identity of a bounty hunter that maybe Boba Fett knew.
This is Leia right down in the poster.
Or maybe that was like a bounty hunter to bounty hunter, like
what's up?
Yo, like look at this Wookiee I caught dog.
Got it.
Yeah, I thought.
I mean, I didn't think there was a whole lot to it, but that was a little confusing.
No, and it's It's just disappointing for me growing up such a big Boba Fett fan. I think it's pretty pathetic how it goes
Why are you
out.
such a big Boba Fett fan?
I mean, he's a badass bounty hunter.
Jetpack. That's
Wrist-mounted rockets. That helmet with like the medieval style face and the antenna.
We saw him.
Everything about him was
We
cool.
saw him become Boba Fett, right?
Well,
in the original.
So that's what I was going to ask you. So his dad is Jango Fett,
right?
Which is who every single clone is a clone of Jango Fett, except for Boba Fett. Well, who is a clone, but he's actually given free will.
Just
Remember,
like a raw copy, isn't it?
yes, that was Jango Fett's one from the cloning aliens, the big long cloning aliens. The one thing Boba Fett asked for, or Jango Fett asked for, was give me an unaltered, like no Order 66 manipulation hit it. Give me an unaltered clone that I can raise as my son. So really, he's actually kind of Jango Fett. He's basically like a clone. He's like a super clone.
Right.
Except that he sucks, and he dies in like 2 seconds.
I do think that this movie, watching it right whenever it came out, I could see why it's disappointing. I think that a good thing about the prequels is that it does kind of strengthen this movie, especially the ending. But I do love the movie. I do think it's a really safe ending. Which is fine. I think they do it well, but it is really.
And that's what
that's what
I mean. Like, I like the tie-in and a neat bow, but some people hate when movies do that.
Yeah.
So that could be a con for someone.
Can we talk about Han Solo? I don't like Han Solo at all. In this
I
movie.
have that written down. Han Solo seems less like a scoundrel, and I love scoundrel
God.
Han.
Thank you.
I mean,
Thank you,
but
Rivers.
he grew.
Preach.
He grew.
No, but he grew to a point where it feels fake. Like
it was like a caricature of himself. It was weird.
It was like, look, I understand that they wanted to show growth, but they went so far
Too
that
much.
direction, it feels unrealistic. Like, there's no moral gray area left for Han at this point. He's like, oh, gung ho, I'm fully bought in, and I'm a general now, even though I'm a mercenary and I've had no military training. My Han is not supposed to be a take orders, good foot soldier. He's supposed to be that mercenary rogue with a heart of gold.
That's what made him so sexy and cool, and he's not in this movie at all.
I kind of felt I know what you mean, and that Han is way more fun, and I kind of felt a little bit of that in the Force Awakens that we'll get to, but I kind of feel like he, his mojo has kind of been spun out. Like, there really almost isn't much of a need for Han Solo in this movie all that much. Like, he's there for Princess Leia.
But they still could have made him a little bit scoundrelly.
They could have written his role probably. And look, you talking about rewriting Return of the Jedi. That's a little presumptuous.
But two, maybe he felt a little humbled as well. I mean, he just got out of this frozen whatever.
Oh, that's a good point.
And he's kind of out of it for some of the movie.
So once again, though, why would he be a general? But that is a good point as to maybe that does force him to be so bought into the cause that he is fully gung ho. But to me, I'm with you, Rivers. I thought it felt fake. I thought it felt forced. I don't think Harrison Ford gives a damn about this movie. I think he read the script and his dialogue, and he's like, "Who is this guy that I'm reading right here? This is not the character that I created." So I'm not a fan of Han, and then by extension, Han and Leia's chemistry is.
Yeah, that's not that cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's all of that sexy steaminess hiding out on the asteroids.
It's not there.
My hands are dirty too, or whatever. It's all gone.
Han Solo did give a little bit of a weird reaction whenever he found out that Luke was the brother. Just kind of like, oh.
Well, that scene where she just finds out that Luke's her brother, and then he disappears, and she's on that bridge, and Han comes, and he's like, "Oh, you can talk to Luke, you can't talk to me." And then Leia makes this really weird noise, and she's like, "Ah!" And she just sort of looks off, and I was like, "What a weird reaction!" I mean, it was all weird, and uncomfortable and awkward.
It felt like Attack of the Clones. I feel like it was a foreshadowing. Whoa. No, it is a foreshadowing of Anakin and Padme rolling around in the grass on Naboo, floating pears and cutting them. It was that wooden to me. I am not a fan at all of the really Luke and Leia scenes in this movie.
Unrelated, but things I didn't like: Jabba's fat body and tongue.
It's pretty creepy.
I remember that.
He looks like Harvey Weinstein.
I remember.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh,
that's good.
Hey, shout out to Leia though for having the core strength to choke him.
But also she was being licked and the belly but also, I mean, rocking by. If someone told me I had to put that outfit on right
I
now, I
know
would be
that
like, what?
it's pretty well documented how much pressure Carrie Fisher was under.
Oh, yeah,
to
about that costume.
Be able to
for
wear that costume.
And I think that sucks. But yeah, she does. She pulls it off.
Yeah.
She pulls it off.
She probably didn't eat for.
It's probably a devastating story about depression
Drugs
and
and
body
stuff, yeah.
image and just like crushing a girl's self-worth.
But she got in there with the Jabba, and she did the thing.
And it does end up being one of the most legendary costumes in nerd history. You will not go to a con where you do not find multiple slave Leias floating around. And, not every Leia was maybe as strict that decides to wear slave Leia. And that's okay. The costume has proven they can handle various body types through the years, I would say.
But I do really think the stuff with the Emperor and Darth Vader and Luke at the end is really strong.
Now you're talking my language, dude.
Yeah.
This is my absolute.
Let me look on you
stuff.
with my own eyes.
Darth Vader's death is very strong.
Yeah.
It's really good. It's one of the best moments of this whole trilogy.
But you can tell. Maybe because I've seen it, but you can tell he's going to soften up the whole movie.
The line that stands out to me is when he lands when he's going for the final confrontation with the Empire, and he lands and he's like, Darth's like, look, dude, you got to come to the dark side. He's like, no, Dad, I'm not going to. And then he says something like, oh,
let
it's
me live my life.
He says something like, it's too late for me, son. And that's when you're like, he's cracking. Luke just planted the seed there. No, look, I think the character scenes with Luke, whether it's with Yoda, whether it's with Darth, the Emperor, hands down the strongest and best parts of these movies.
This is the only movie of these three that I did not find Luke annoying.
That's what I was going to say. I thought I wanted to pick your brain on that.
The growth was there. It was really good.
And they sold it. They landed it, which is rare.
You know how annoyed I get so easily. And he just doesn't annoy me at all in this movie.
No, we have seen him become the wise hero, right?
The anti-Han, they did this.
Yeah, that's true.
That's kind of why I think that Han Solo really needed to take a back seat, because I really think, and while Han Solo really is not that much fun in this movie at all, I thought it was kind of necessary to give Luke the room to do what he has to do.
Yes, no,
yeah,
and I
true.
agree with that. And Han did carry Empire, Han was the Empire life and soul, but still, they could have done that while maybe maintaining more of his roguish charm.
Yeah.
But back to Luke. I love it, dude, because you see the growth, right? He now recognizes that there are more powerful things than just pure power, right? Love, emotion, being passive. These are very almost biblical type of messages, like being passive in the face of aggression.
Right.
These are very powerful sentiments that Luke, when he's this little kid, they're like, I want to go fight the Empire. He doesn't realize that. He just thinks it's all about sword fighting and being the best duelist or whatever. And so the acceptance.
He feels very mature in this movie.
So mature. And you see that in that final scene with the Emperor.
You can see it in the face.
The acceptance.
You can see it in the hand.
He looks a little stoned.
He does. If you haven't seen the poster for this movie, please Google it.
But it's the acceptance that he can't do it alone, right? And he has to have trust in the goodness of others, and that's what wins the day in the end. His trust in his father and the fact that Anakin Skywalker is still alive somewhere in Darth Vader. And what I love is that perfectly references the selflessness that Anakin talks about in episode 3, right? So the same way that the Emperor used the Jedi's trust against him to make Order 66, to kill the Jedi Order, in the end, the Jedi come back on the heels of the very selflessness that got them eliminated in the first place. And I think that's very effective. And I think that is something that you only really appreciate if you watch all of these movies, really even in the order that we watch them. Just think about the lines. Your overconfidence is your weakness. Your faith in your friends is yours. And no, the faith in the friends ended up being the thing that won the day, Emperor.
And then they snuck in stupid Hayden Christensen into the ghost scene.
That confused me so much as a kid. I didn't. As a kid, I never. I was
remember.
So
I think in my VHS box set it was the original guy because the other ones hadn't been made yet.
Yeah.
Yes, but not everything in that is original. It actually does not have the original Emperor.
It's not like original, but but the guy was the original guy or whatever. Who is it?
Oh, I actually don't know who played original
blah, blah, blah.
Anakin. I don't think you see him though.
It's just like a random.
It's
guy.
just a random actor because you only see him when he's in the suit. I wonder if it's the same Darth Vader actor from the suit.
I thought it was, but maybe.
But I can't remember his name. No, I think you're right. I think it is. Or no, because the actor who's in the suit isn't the guy who delivers the Vader lines. Whatever. Nathan can figure out.
Sebastian Shaw, who is not the guy who was
Sebastian.
in the suit.
Oh, okay.
Cool.
Final thing, I would say, because we haven't mentioned the action yet. What the action in this movie is good. I'm not the biggest fan of the Ewok fights. I think it makes the Empire look a little weak.
Yeah.
But
Ewoks are strong.
But the final flying assault with Lando and Wedge Antilles and the X-Wing squadron flying into Death Star 2, shooting the core, getting out, that still holds up to this day, and it looks damn good in high definition.
I think this was a good movie.
It was a good movie. It was a good movie. And so now we have discussed the final piece of the original trilogy. We've discussed the final piece of the prequel trilogy, and now we jump into modern times, my friends, and we are into the beginning of a new trilogy, The Force Awakens.
All right, The Force Awakens, 2015, directed by J.J. Abrams. We all know him from Lost, Star Trek, Super 8. 30 years have passed, and the Empire, from the ashes of the Empire, we have the New Order now. And General Leia has created the Resistance, which pretty much the new rebels. Anyway, Poe, a fighter pilot, hides a map in a droid, BB-8, that contains the whereabouts of Luke Skywalker. Poe is then kidnapped by the New Order. Stormtrooper Finn, one of the stormtroopers, sees the horrors of battle whenever they capture Poe and slowly starts to turn over to the Resistance. Anyway, Poe and Finn escape the New Order to find the map. Anyway, BB-8, who has the map, finds Rey. Anyway, then they all get mixed up, and then they meet Han Solo and Chewbacca, which they then meet up with the Resistance, and then the Resistance has to destroy Death Star 3.0.
Whoa. Starkiller Base, bro. Starkiller Base.
It's Death Star 3.0.
It's a planet. The Death Star is a space station.
Yeah. Okay, it's still Death Star 3.0.
Yes, that's true.
Anyway, you have Kylo Ren then, who is he's not leading the New Order, but he is pretty much the Darth Vader of the New Order. Snoke is leading the New Order, and they're trying to destroy the Resistance. Kylo Ren is also trying to get Rey, who's got some big time Force going on.
Yeah.
And then the Resistance is trying to find Luke and also destroy Starkiller Base before it destroys them. And that's everything we've got going on here.
Yeah, off the bat, I don't love First Order and the Resistance as names.
I've got to say, they went full on Nazi here. Like there was shades of Nazi.
I said that there was so much Nazi stuff going on.
Oh yeah, that's all by design.
Bit of that. There was a little of that before, but I thought this one went full. Like Donald Gleason, he was like carbon copy of Hitler in this.
Hux.
When they get that big speech,
yeah.
the big speech he gave, and they even did the hand motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Like,
and maybe it is a bit on the nose, but it is by design, right? It's this incredibly militant faction of the Empire that has sprouted up from the wreckage, and all it has on its mind is revenge. That's literally what their entire resources. They're like a. What's interesting to me about stuff like Star Wars, right? The same way that back in the day, on planet Earth, you would have like a very warlike culture and a very peaceful culture. You take that, but you would extend it to a planet, right? Or a few planets. So this is like multiple planets worth of resources and people whose sole goal is to cause destruction and kill and upset. I don't like the Resistance name more than anything. It feels, because the Resistance feels like it's something that shouldn't be that codified, yet they talk about the Resistance like it's like a known entity. And I think that feels a bit weird to me.
Maybe so.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Sorry, little technical difficulties, but we're back. And we're going to hop right back in to Force Awakens here. We're talking about the First Order and the Resistance, but let's get in to some of the pros and cons of this movie. Miss Rivers, you want to start us off?
Yes. As the person in this room that's probably the least amount of like a Star Wars fan,
yeah,
I think that's safe to say. Yeah. I mean, I know the least about these movies. I mean, I've seen them, but whatever.
Mm-hmm. At least you never called Yoda yoga.
I didn't do that.
That was me multiple times. But yes, you probably do know. So at least.
Maybe
I have a Star Wars Christmas
maybe
sweater
I
right
am
on
a bigger Star Wars fan than you.
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
Yeah, sure. Maybe Mississippi State will win an SEC championship one day.
Let's not do
Oh,
sports.
wait. Oh, yeah, my bad.
Nathan's out. Okay, so as the person who knows the least amount of stars, whatever. Personally, I like these characters, like the new characters.
Yeah.
I like these characters the best of all the movies.
I think this is the best token
I know
black
that
guy.
might not be.
Yes.
All of the
I'm aware.
token black guys.
Look, I'm aware that might not be a popular opinion because people who are like really into Star Wars might be like, "What? No." But I really like these new characters. I like Rey. I mean,
Rey
it's
is
not
the
because I'm a
best,
girl,
dude.
but I mean, maybe part of it is I like a lady hero. You know, and
Better than Luke. I
and
think she's better than Luke.
She takes care of herself. I
definitely more
love,
likable than
like, she's so tough and she does all the stuff. One of my favorite scenes is when she and Finn are running and he's like trying to hold her hand and she's
Stop
like,
holding
"Get
my
out of
hand."
here! I know how to run without someone holding my hand." And I love that. Like, she's like, "Get out of here."
And that's even like it's almost it. I think that flirts with being so on the nose, but Daisy Ridley, they sell it.
She did great.
movie
Oh,
sells
like
it.
the first time that Finn shows up and he looks at Kylo Ren and goes, "So who talks first? Do I talk first or do you talk first?"
Yeah, no, it felt so this movie felt really intense, but it felt the most real
that's Poe, but yes,
of
Poe's
all
Poe.
the. Well, they
Way to go,
You're
Nick.
right.
Way to
So
go.
maybe I really am the one that knows the
you
most
are.
in this room. I felt like this movie was so intense, but it was because it was real. Like the scene where they're fighting, like the first fight scene, and Finn, like, obviously, like, just shuts down and he can't shoot anybody,
Yeah.
and then the guy dies and like the blood's on his
Yeah.
stormtrooper helmet. It's
you
the first
don't
time
see
where
that a lot.
well, it's the first time where you're like, wait a minute, these stormtroopers have been slaughtering people the whole time.
And getting slaughtered.
What?
Well, like, let's not stop and think too much about the fact that Luke is essentially a terrorist that blew up a space station that had like hundreds of thousands of people on
Like,
it.
All the construction workers that must have died when they were contracted to work
yeah.
on the new Death Star.
Yeah, by like the evil emperor who's just using them for like slave labor.
But
and
I
stuff.
thought that was a really nice little bit of realism. The fact that there was actually blood. And the
I mean,
fact
yeah,
that a
you were like,
stormtrooper had
wow, this
emotion.
feels very real. And I'm sure, I mean,
Dude,
it has to do with who's directing it and all that. But man, I loved that it felt real.
well, and it's got that great beginning where they do a scene that we've seen in so many other military movies where you're in the dropship, right? That calm before the storm.
Yeah.
Things are jostling
Yeah.
around. You're getting ready to go into battle. It's all intense, anxiety riddled. Then they apply that to Star Wars, and it works really well. It shows how terrifying the stormtroopers are. Kylo Ren bursts onto the scene.
And look, and I know
love-
that he
oh, yeah.
might not be a great character, or like. Or,
Oh, he is.
Oh, he's not. How is he not a great
No,
character?
no.
Go, Rivers.
I will fight
I'm
tooth
not
and
really-
nail for Kylo.
Look, I'll say this: Adam Driver is a babe.
Yes.
I'm,
He is,
I'm into
yeah.
that, and especially like that first time you get to see him when he's like in the room with Rey. It was like
The funniest part is
that was
I
like
had
a
no
really
idea.
intense scene where she's like, "I can't even see your face." He takes it off, and you're like, "Whoo, I feel some vibes. I like it. I like it. This is a thing."
Also, might end up being
I
incest.
know.
Maybe we'll
I
know more
don't
here in a
know.
couple of
Yeah,
days.
yeah.
We'll see.
So
I had
Doesn't
no
need
idea.
No,
that
it's not
mask.
that I don't
Doesn't
like-
need that mask.
I think that when I say he's not a good character, I mean that he's got like a lot of emotional bad juju going on.
Ooh, Ray is kind of into it.
Yeah, I think that she kind of. Well, I mean, not
Does he
is and
need that
isn't.
mask? He doesn't need
Well,
that
she's
mask.
a little into
Like
it.
she can keep up
She's
with
intrigued.
him. Like he's intrigued. She can keep up with him. She can do the thing. They have the Force vibe.
What
Yeah.
I like about Kylo Ren that I don't think Darth Vader had, you saw every now and then that Darth Vader had these moments wherever everyone was like, okay, leave Darth Vader alone. Darth
Yes.
Vader is going to kill you if you say anything. He had a lot of those in just the one movie. Darth Vader had a few over 3, but he really felt what it took Anakin so long to establish, that he's got some bad pent-up rage that he is letting loose in some damaging ways. Like,
Yeah.
it feels like the dark side got a hold of him in a way that we don't need any backstory. I can totally see that he got drawn into this because, like, the scene whenever they say that there was a girl and he just like yeah.
First, he like chokes the guy over real quick. Then he just starts destroying the dashboard.
I think you can feel the anger in him a lot more than I saw in a lot of the characters in the other trilogies.
Well, to stay on Kylo then for a second, I really like Kylo for all the reasons that basically you laid out. And probably my favorite part about Kylo, this is the first time, and it's an interesting concept, where you see a character tempted by the light. Everything is always, in all movies, everything is always people being tempted by the bad stuff, by the dark side,
Like
by
he's
wanting
having
to
to try
do
really
evil.
hard to be
He
evil.
like wants to be evil, And he's actually tempted to not be as evil. So he's like, I got to kill my dad.
I got
to kill my dad. I got to be as evil as I can to fulfill
Can I ask
Vader's...
you about the mask? He's literally just wearing the mask to be like Darth Vader.
That's what I was saying.
He's a Vader
he doesn't
fanboy.
Need the mask.
I love the mask.
I love the mask too. I just whenever he takes it off, it's like you don't like Darth Vader needed it because he was going to die.
Yes,
right.
yes.
Maybe it just feels like it gives him authority. Like,
well, Abrams said it when he was making the movie that he envisioned Kylo as a Vader fanboy.
Yeah,
he
looks
definitely
at the mask to get
he
more
is a
power.
fanboy, and then that's why he gets so mad when Rey is like, "You'll never be as good as Darth Vader." Oh, got him!
Got him! I thought, but so I think Kylo's very effective because he is very menacing in the same vein that Darth Vader is at the beginning. I think the voice is great.
The voice is great.
The voice is so good. Oh, and stopping a blaster bolt in the middle of the air, something that we've never seen before.
And then Poe is like, what is
impressive.
happening?
And he's not even like paying attention to it. It's just sitting there, and I love the little detail that it doesn't go away till the end when he just lets it fly and finally
I like how
hit.
whenever the Force is used in this movie, it's not just actors stopping, moving. Like you can see like a wobble that like the Force is kind of holding someone captive while they're trying to restrain themselves.
And so so I think he starts off as a very ominous being, and then he does an interesting thing that not a lot of antagonists do, where he becomes less intimidating as the movie goes on. And
absolutely.
I think the character's better for it because you realize that he is kind of the ultimate. The dark side's about passion. It's about being unbridled, leaning into your emotions, whatever they may be. This is our first look at what a true dark side apprentice looks like. We've never seen that in these movies. And he's a bit like a petulant child who is very, very powerful,
but not an annoying one like Hayden Christensen.
Yes.
Adam Driver did not get on my nerves.
It's the perfect example that you can execute that original vision that they were maybe kind of trying to lay out for Anakin, and that a lot of the prequels' failings aren't in the story; it's actually in the execution of said story. One thing I want to bring up, because this is what everybody says, and I just want people to think about this for a little bit. Everybody says that this is exactly like A New Hope, right? In the plot. And it is. And it really is. I mean, from a backed up meta perspective, the story beats are almost one for one. But one thing that doesn't always get highlighted, I think that J.J. Abrams and is it Lawrence Kasdan who wrote this with him? The guy who wrote Empire? Mm-hmm. One thing they did, and I got to shout out a really good podcast called Story in Star Wars with Alistair Stevens. He takes very academic approaches to breaking down pop culture things. And he's the one who highlighted this, and it's really stuck with me, which is that zoomed out, everything looks the same, but when you zoom in, everything is the complete opposite, right? We just talked about Kylo Ren. He appears to be, that Darth Vader type of bad guy, except that Darth Vader is very laconic, right? A man of few words, very menacing. Kylo is talkative. He's emotional. Darth Vader's very controlled. Rey is a very reluctant hero. She doesn't want to leave the planet. She's waiting on her parents, whatever. Luke can't wait to get away from his family, leave the planet, and go on this adventure, be this hero. The Death Star in the original, it's a weapon of peace. Yes, they destroy Alderaan, but it's to bring everybody else into line and have an empire that's at peace and under control. Starkiller Base is just a weapon of mass destruction. And I mean, it goes on and on, right? BB-8, him and R2-D2 both have plans. BB-8 has plans out of desperation. He doesn't have a mission. It's go wherever, just try to save the day. R2-D2 has it's a part of a greater plan that Leia and the movie Rogue One that they've put together for the Death Star plan. So I find that pretty fascinating that they were able to both echo the original movie and go away from it. And I think that's why it ends up working a bit in the end.
Well, and I think, obviously the actual plot itself is not the same, but the story, like if you see the gears turning, it is very much, it's close to the same movie in terms of what is happening. But
yes.
I get why the things that you said are completely true, but I don't think that's a bad thing. And I hear people usually trying to justify the fact that that's going on. And I don't think it's a bad thing because, the last time we got a Star Wars trilogy, they were labeled like the worst movies ever. So Disney had to prove not only could Disney make Star Wars, anyone could make Star Wars. And I think that the fact that they just delivered the goods in a Star Wars movie is great. And they did it in a fantastic way, and I think they laid the foundation for a movie that I'm hoping this weekend is going to be very different and very kick-ass.
They executed they executed what I think makes the good Star Wars movies great, which is big set pieces, right? Big fun action, solid world building, and mainly, I know, right?
I know.
Have you heard about the Harry Potter Star Wars crossover? Those worlds?
Whoa, chill out. That sounds terrible. I'll punch you in the face right now. But mainly, what you said, Rivers, the characters. It's all Star Wars when it's at its best. It's all about the characters. It's why I'm maybe not the biggest fan of Rogue One. Can't name a single person from that movie. It's why I love the original. It's why I could not get enough and still cannot get enough Force Awakens. I love Rey to death. I want to have a daughter so that she can look up to Rey.
Oh, the Han
She's
and
not sexualized
don't
at all.
control your
Rey,
daughter's life.
Look,
don't control
she's
your
not,
daughter's
but
life.
The Han and Rey kind of father-daughter
Oh, it's great.
thing.
Oh, yeah. Whenever he
man.
offers her the job, and he's like, I'm not going to be nice to you.
Harrison Ford, he's back.
Yeah, and I gotta
Han's
say,
back.
He's
I think this
back.
is the best death because I think there's so much tied into this death. I think this whole trilogy is going to be centered on the way that, I mean, his son had to kill his dad because he felt like he was kind of losing the draw to the dark side. Like, that's some dark
That's emo.
stuff.
That's as emo as it gets.
But I'm also gonna say I didn't love Han in this movie.
I do kind of agree. I felt more of what you were saying about the Return of the Jedi in this than I did in that.
I feel like he's even more of a caricature. So now what's
But I
happening?
liked his death.
But look,
I liked
now
his
what's
death.
happening is they're trying to bring like that cool Han back.
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem like he's
So
that
they don't
cool.
sell it to you.
They don't sell it to
And
me.
I think
and
Leia
Leia is just kind of like
I really like Leia because I think that you can really feel that her character has been evolving a lot. And I get that Han Solo, the point of when we meet him is that he really hasn't been evolving. He's kind of the same guy he was before, but I didn't even feel like he had been stuck in a rut. It kind of just felt like, and I think that they're the weakest parts, which are still good. I still think they're good, but I think the weakest parts are the callbacks to the first Star Wars trilogy, which I think you kind of have to have
Like
the
space
callbacks.
chess?
Yeah, like the space chess or the ball that comes out that they were using to train with the Force. And I feel like Han Solo comes back as greatest hits of the original trilogy as opposed to an organic character that's evolved over the years.
See, that's interesting because to me, it actually feels pretty realistic because Han, as the character that we met in A New Hope and Empire, is not a guy who would settle down. That's why Jedi is so weird to me. He's not a guy who would be a foot soldier in another person's war. He's not going to be a general of some army. Eventually, he's going to return to the only thing he knows, which is smuggling with Chewie and being a bit of a rogue. And so I definitely recognize what y'all are saying about them maybe going so far the opposite direction.
I like where they wanted to take him. It's just he did not.
See,
And
for
his
me, it
character-
lands. For
his
me, it
character
lands.
is still strong, and it does land. I think it does land. I enjoyed seeing Han Solo. Like, whenever he comes in, he says, we're home, and he explains what his situation is. I still liked it, and I still had fun. I just thought if I've got a list of my favorite things in this movie, Han Solo is probably going to be near the bottom of the list.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
No, see, I thought Han's back in a big way. And
But
the whole
his
scene
death
where he's
is
talking about
at the top.
The death part was good.
Kinja Club and the other gangsters, and he's got this one
Yeah,
gang
that
on
was-
this
that
side
was
that
cool.
wants to. This one gang he's like, when have I ever cheated you before, or whatever. So yeah, you kind of get the feeling that Han's also very realistic that after the happy ending of Jedi, that Han and Leia would split up, right? I mean, that's Han's not a relationship type of guy, so I thought all that worked very well. Anything else that stood out to y'all from Force Awakens that we haven't mentioned yet?
The new droid.
Oh, BB-8's great.
BB-8
I
is
love
great.
little
I'm
BB-8.
excited for the new. What's the new droid? Oh no, the Porgs are going to be the big.
The little
thing.
penguin things.
Yeah.
Right up
They're going
Rivers
to be my
Alley.
new Ewok.
Yeah, Ewoks 2.0 with the Porgs.
I
Okay.
loved how Starkiller Base was an entire planet.
Yeah, just
It was
Just a planet.
badass design.
Now,
And the
why
fact
would
that
they have made it so cold and mountainy? Why wouldn't you make it like?
Well, I would think if you've got that, you need a cooling system in a car.
Oh,
I had not considered that.
look at the smart guys.
That is a smart
That's what
guy
made
move.
That's
the
what I thought
smartest
was
guy on
going
the
on.
Smart
cast.
guy move.
No, I mean, yeah, right. If you're going to harness the power of a sun, you might need a little cool outer shell to.
I did not think about that.
To take advantage of it. I did like it. I don't think the movie does a great job of, and it's because they wanted to avoid it, I think, at all costs, though. It doesn't do a very good job of explaining the surrounding politics. Like, did they destroy Coruscant? Or did they just destroy the capital of the Republic? Like, they don't really tell you what they destroyed necessarily.
I expect that whenever this new trilogy is done, this movie will probably be the weakest. And I think that even the people at Disney probably know that this is going to be the weakness because they need to give people the confidence that we can do this. Like, trust us, we're going to be able to make a Star Wars movie.
That would be fantastic if this is the weakest one.
Yeah, I agree.
I've got a lot of hopes on this new. I'm really excited.
Okay, so let's go there in a second. Final thing on this. So I didn't love that part with Starkiller Base. I didn't love that they destroyed Starkiller Base. And I didn't love that they did it with another trench run. That's the only part of all the echoes that just didn't do it for me. Like, you didn't need to go that far with it. Like, it was just straight up a trench run, but with Poe Dameron.
Yeah, whenever Han Solo says, like, he's kind of the ironic guy that says for all of us, so it's just bigger. Like, I was with Han, but, like, don't joke about it because that is kind of easy.
Yeah, it's because that, like, is what you're doing. It's just bigger. Okay, final thing I want to say. I want to pick y'all's brains about this. Is there anything weird about Finn going from being a slave who's been brainwashed, doesn't even have a name, only has a number, to being really witty and snappy with his dialogue immediately when he starts talking to someone?
I think, though, that they did a good job of, like, humanizing
very likable
him right from the beginning.
Him and Poe, I'm immediately like, these are my guys. I love him. But when I stop and sit about it, I'm like, okay, this dude
But we don't
grew
really
up.
know. We never really got to experience any stormtroopers.
Yeah,
so, like, we don't know what they're like.
Maybe we'll
like,
get
this
more
is our
of
first...
that because it would be interesting to see, like, what is it like to be a stormtrooper? Like, you can't. There's no
even
people.
Look, there's even that scene, which is such a small thing, but whenever Kylo Ren realizes that Rey has gotten out of the thing or whatever, he's in the room and then he starts just like destroying everything, and the two stormtroopers like come around the corner and they're like,
another thing.
They're like, nope.
Star Wars has never been funny. And
but it was like
this
witty
movie
funny. It was like very
this movie had laughs in it, and I don't remember laughing.
So we've
whenever I
never
went through the other
experienced a stormtrooper from like a human perspective. You know, so maybe,
I agree. I guess my only question
maybe they were witty the whole
maybe,
time.
You know what? Maybe Finn got kidnapped later.
Yeah,
and
it doesn't sound like it.
Just,
it sounds like
because no, he didn't have a name growing up, right?
Yeah.
So I would think that guy would have a little more like, I am a robot. Like, what is this witty dialogue that we're
where
doing?
It's like, I mean, any kind of kid soldier.
Yes,
you know,
okay,
like
maybe when they're like in the mess hall, they're messing around, which then raises other questions about Finn couldn't kill this random village of innocents, but then he turns around and he's killing.
Like really good.
Yeah, but then he's killing his brothers in arms like 2 seconds later. So
Traitor.
It's Finn needs to be, in my opinion, and I said he's very likable. I think he needs to become a bit more realistic, maybe next movie.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
I love Rey, love Poe.
I look forward to more Poe.
Okay, yes, I do too. So, real quick, before we talk, let's rank him, and then we'll wrap up by maybe talking just a couple minutes on our expectations. Just a couple minutes, chill out. I know we're going long, but this is big, y'all. This is big. We're wrapping it up, and we have Last Jedi coming out. Okay, final rankings. Who wants to start?
I'll start, but I'm just giving you numbers, so it's going to sound like a cell phone number.
Okay, say the number, and I'll say the title.
Okay, 5.
Okay, so wait, go worst to first.
Oh, worst to first?
Go worst to first.
Okay, worst, 2.
Attack of the Clones.
1.
Phantom Menace.
3.
Revenge of the Sith.
6.
Return of the Jedi.
7.
Force Awakens.
4.
New Hope.
5.
Empire. All right, that is a classic list right there. Very similar to my list. I, too, start with Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, at the very bottom. Phantom Menace checking in next. But then this is maybe where I'm going to differ. I have Return of the Jedi as my third least favorite Star Wars movie.
Which number is that?
That is number 6. I have Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, ahead of Return of the Jedi. And then, for me, it's just Episode 7, Force Awakens, then Empire, and A New Hope still is, always will be, my favorite, hands down, Star Wars movie. I love origin stories.
Yeah, I'm going to go Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Episode 1, Phantom Menace, Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I don't know what you're doing putting that all the way
It's
up
better
on
than
that
Jedi.
list, so.
It's better than Jedi.
Well, yeah, I
Then-
almost had the exact same list. So yours is
6, Revenge of the what in the world? Return of the Jedi.
Yes.
7, Force Awakens. 4, New Hope. 5, Empire Strikes Back.
Okay, so it looks like we're going by majority rules. Empire, still the best. Everybody tends to think it's the best anyway. For me, I just like origin stories, and I think A New Hope's a wonderful, complete package.
But I mean, I had that second. I mean, it wasn't like...
Yeah, no. Generally, it's always Empire, New Hope at top. Force Awakens came dangerously close to knocking off Empire for me. Maybe if I'm being honest, it is.
I feel like it came dangerously close to knocking off A New Hope for me.
From second on the list.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, me too. It almost moved into second on my list as well. But look, I thoroughly enjoyed this journey. I think it's pretty fascinating what these Star Wars movies have done through the years. And I think that Force Awakens, J.J. Abrams did an incredible job under a lot of pressure establishing a new trilogy. And now in 2 days, my friends, we will be sitting in the theater watching Last Jedi. What are you most excited for?
I don't know.
I'm excited. Like I love this director, Ryan Johnson. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see just stylistically. I think that this is going to be...
So it's a different director?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Should we be nervous about that?
No. I feel like he's a big time fan, but I also feel like it's not going to rely. I feel like it's not going to rely heavily on the others. And I think stylistically, I think that it's going to be more colorful, more vibrant, probably darker. And I think the story is going to. I feel like the structure is going to be pretty creative, and it's probably going to move around pretty strangely.
I just really liked this one so much.
I agree.
I would be nervous to change it like a ton.
I don't think they're going to change it a ton. I think that Ryan Johnson. What was it? He's done Looper.
Every time you say Ryan Johnson, I think about Dwayne Johnson.
No, not The Rock. The Rock did not direct. The Rock did not direct. He's pretty busy. And now I wonder what The Rock's version of Star Wars looks like. No, but he's done Looper, which is very good. That Ozymandias episode of Breaking Bad that everybody loves. But if you want to feel good about where this movie is,
that was
what's Brothers Bloom?
The brothers that are the thieves with Mark Ruffalo and Adrian Brody. Oh, it's very good.
Maybe
it's
I saw that.
It's a lot of fun. That's a cute movie.
Well, so either way, though, the best thing you'd say, or not the best thing, but why you can probably feel pretty good about this movie is Disney's obviously confident in this movie. They signed this guy. So if you don't know, Ryan Johnson signed on to make an entirely new Star Wars trilogy. That's why he's not doing episode 9. That's why JJ's doing episode 9. They want him to do an entirely new trilogy. So they're very confident where this movie's going. The early returns of Rotten Tomatoes, 90+. And I actually got to talk to the editor for IG Movies, Jim Vavida, and he said that this movie will challenge fans' expectations, which I think is very important to get away from kind of the biggest criticism of Force Awakens, which was that it was a bit of a retread of sorts. But yeah, I can't wait to see more Rey.
I'm excited. More Rey. That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah.
And these little penguin things.
Porgs?
Porgs.
Is that what they're called?
John Boyega hates the porgs.
Well, who cares?
Oh, by the way, also Mark Hamill back.
Oh, yeah.
Luke back, baby. Luke is back. Oh, I can't not wait. Even in the preview, I can't get enough of him. I can't wait for Rivers to want to shit all over him, I'm sure.
Carrie Fisher's last performance. That'll also be a big thing.
That's true.
Oh, that is the thing.
It's pretty, it's really sad, but it'll be nice to
So we're going to all
top.
watch this movie together.
Yeah, so for you, those who know, we're going to Celebrity Theaters to watch this movie. Full disclosure, we are doing some advertising with them, but they're putting in a badass setup right now, man. 2 brand new theaters, massive IMAX-sized screens, but the real draw, they got laser projectors too. Woo. Gone are the days of light bulbs. How about this, though? The Dolby Atmos sound system. Nathan, you probably appreciate this more than anyone. Over 100, there's 101 speakers installed in each theater.
Oh, the speaker system.
Dude, I'm telling you,
Nathan
it is
so excited.
Top of the line, the latest and greatest technology. So we will be there Thursday night watching Star Wars. Immediately afterwards, we'll do a spoiler-filled, quick live cast of Real Friends, probably just off a cell phone. So stick around. It's going to be a ton of fun. I know we went long this episode, but when you get me talking Star Wars, that is going to happen 10 out of 10 times. So thank you to everybody who got involved or who's watching. A huge thank you to Miss Rivers Huey, Nathan Velasquez, as always. And, of course...
Wait, did you just throw up the peace sign?
He did throw up the peace sign.
Yeah, I did.
That wasn't even, cool at all during your entire lifetime. At least it was kind of cool during the 90s, right? And of course, behind the glass.
I'm not really cool. I don't go for cool.
Behind the glass, we got Joe Rodriguez, our main man on the production side of the equation. So thank y'all for joining us for another episode of Real Friends. We'll continue to figure this thing out, but it's a lot of fun. Y'all have may the Force be with you. Probably how I should end this. May the Force be with you.